Who was Ted Bundy? What led him to kidnap, rape, and murder dozens of young women and girls? Stick around as we tell you the story of the infamous Lady Killer. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Bundy on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. He started life as his mother's secret shame, as his illegitimate birth humiliated her deeply religious parents. Ted's birth certificate lists his father as unknown, so his biological father's identity might never be confirmed. However, Eleanor Louise Cowell, who went by Louise, was 22 years old when she delivered Ted at a home for unwed mothers. Later, Louise brought her son to her parents in Philadelphia. To hide the fact he was an illegitimate child, Bundy was raised as the adopted son of his grandparents and was told that his mother was his sister. Eventually, Louise moved with Bundy to Tacoma, Washington, a few years later, and in 1951, married Johnny Bundy. While Ted took his name, he reportedly didn't have much respect for his stepfather, whom he resented for being too uneducated and working class. From all appearances, Bundy grew up in a content, working-class family. He showed an unusual interest in the macabre at an early age, and by around the age of 3, he became fascinated by knives. Bundy also was known to pick apart mice in the woods and try to drown people while swimming or boating. He showed no sense of remorse, guilt, embarrassment, or shame. As a teenager, a darker side of his character started to emerge. Bundy liked to peer in other people's windows and thought nothing of stealing things he wanted. Bundy graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in psychology in 1972. He was accepted to and attended law school in Utah, though he never earned his degree. While a student at the University of Washington, Bundy fell in love with a wealthy, pretty young woman from California named Diane Edwards. She had everything that he wanted: money, class, and influence. He was devastated by their breakup. Many of Bundy's later victims resembled his college girlfriend, attractive students with long, dark hair. By the mid-1970s, Bundy had transformed himself, becoming more outwardly confident and active in social and political matters. He even got a letter of recommendation from the Republican governor of Washington after working on his campaign. Bundy confessed to 36 killings of young women across several states in the 1970s, but experts believe that the final tally might be closer to 100 or more. Bundy often lured his victims into his car by pretending to be injured and asking for their help. Their kindness proved to be a fatal mistake. His killings usually followed a gruesome pattern. He often raped his victims before beating them to death. Bundy's first victim was in 1974. Her name was Linda Ann Heal, a 21-year-old University of Washington student. She was kidnapped and her body found in 1975 on Taylor Mountain, near Issaquah, Washington. Here are just a few more women that suffered at the hand of Bundy. Donna Gail Manson, 19. After confessing to Manson's murder, Bundy said he burned her skull in Liz Kendall's, his girlfriend's, fireplace. Susan Rancourt, 18. Rancourt was abducted on campus at Central Washington State College, and her skull was later found near Taylor Mountain, where Bundy placed several skulls over the years. Nancy Wilcox, 60. Wilcox went missing in Holiday, Utah, after she went out to buy a pack of gum, but her body has never been found. Bundy confessed to sexually assaulting and strangling her, then burying her body near Capitol Reef National Park. Lynette Culver, 12. Culver was abducted from her neighborhood in Pocatello, Idaho. Bundy confessed he killed her and threw her body into the Snake River. Her body has not been found. Many young women and girls died in the hands of the remorseless Ted Bundy. The exact number of women Bundy killed will never be known. Bundy's most well-known girlfriend, Elizabeth Klopfer, would eventually help police arrest the suspected serial killer. He and Klopfer began a 6-year relationship in 1969 after meeting in a Seattle bar. She was a single mom of a young daughter and struggled with alcoholism. Bundy took care of her, and she said he was warm and loving. However, Klopfer started to suspect Bundy's crimes. When she questioned him about odd behaviors, like keeping a meat cleaver in his desk, he used his charm to deflect her concerns. Klupfer secretly went to the police with her suspicion of Bundy's involvement in prominent local murders, but they didn't believe he was the killer. The pair remained together, though they grew distant when Bundy moved to Olympia the following year. In 1975, Klupfer went to police again, this time with evidence that helped them to arrest the serial killer. Bundy had confessed to Klupfer over the phone from his prison cell that he had tried to kill her and couldn't resist his impulses when he felt his sickness building in him. She broke ties with Bundy for good. In the fall of 1974, Bundy moved to Utah to attend law school, and women began disappearing there as well. The following year, he was pulled over by the police. A search of his vehicle uncovered a cache of burglary tools, a crowbar, a face mask, rope, and handcuffs. He was arrested for possession of these tools, and the police began to link him to much more sinister crimes. In 1975, Bundy was arrested in the kidnapping of Carol Durant, one of the few women to escape his clutches. He was convicted and received a 1 to 15-year jail sentence. Bundy escaped from prison twice in 1977. The first time, he was indicted on murder charges for the death of a young Colorado woman and decided to act as his own lawyer in the case. During a trip to the courthouse library, he jumped out a window and made his first escape. He was captured 8 days later. In December, Bundy escaped from custody again. He climbed out of a hole he made in the ceiling of his cell, having dropped more than 30 pounds to fit through the small opening. Authorities didn't discover that Bundy was missing for 15 hours, giving the serial killer a big head start on the police. After Bundy's second escape from prison, he eventually made his way to Tallahassee, Florida. On the night of January 14, 1978, Bundy broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. He attacked 4 of the young female residents and killed 2 of them, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy. On February 9th, Bundy kidnapped and murdered a 12-year-old girl named Kimberly Leach. These crimes marked the end of his murderous rampage, as he was soon pulled over by the police later that month. The most damning evidence connecting Bundy to the 2 Chi Omega murders at FSU were bite marks on Levy's body, which were a definitive match to Bundy. Louise, Bundy's mother, was working as a secretary at the University of Puget Sound and still married to Johnny when Ted was accused of his crimes. She refused to believe the charges for years, though she changed her stance after he confessed. Bundy's good looks, charm, and intelligence made him something of a celebrity during his trial. He fought for his life, but in July 1979, was convicted for the murders of Bowman and Levy and given the death penalty twice. He spent 9 years on death row appealing his sentence. In 1980, Bundy received another death sentence for Leach's murder. It was this sentence that ultimately led to his execution by electric chair in 1989. Bundy appealed, trying to take his case as high as the U.S. Supreme Court, but he was turned down. He also offered information on some of unsolved murders, hoping to avoid the death penalty as a result, but couldn't delay punishment forever. In February 1980, Bundy married Carol Ann Boone, a mother of 2 whom he dated before his initial arrest. In a courtroom during the penalty phase of his trial, he proposed and she accepted in the presence of the judge, making the marriage legitimate in Florida. The couple had met 6 years earlier when they both worked at the Department of Emergency Services in Olympia, Washington. Boone gave birth to a daughter, Rose, in 1982, and she named Bundy as the father. Initially, Bundy's paternity was questioned because he wasn't allowed conjugal visits in prison. But Ann Rule, Ted's former co-worker, has said it's likely Bundy was able to bribe the prison guards into letting the couple have sex. Boone eventually realized Bundy was guilty of his crimes. She divorced him in 1986 and moved to Washington with her daughter. Not much is known about Rose today. It's believed Boone changed both of their names to help them stay out of the public eye. On January 24, 1989, Bundy was executed around 7 a.m. at a Florida state prison in an electric chair sometimes known as Old Sparky. Outside the prison, crowds cheered and even set off fireworks after Bundy's execution. Some brought frying pans they banged on in celebration and chanted, "Burn Bundy, burn." Broadcaster James Dobson interviewed Bundy the night before his death. He claimed Bundy wept multiple times and expressed remorse for what he had done. On the eve of his execution, Bundy made 2 phone calls to his mother and had a final meal of steak, eggs, hash browns, and toast. Bundy's last words were addressed to his lawyer, Jim Coleman, and Fred Lawrence, a minister. "I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends." Following his execution, scientists removed Bundy's brain and studied it for signs of physical abnormalities that could have explained his violent behavior. However, they didn't find anything. Bundy's body was cremated in Gainesville, Florida, and no public ceremony was held. Before he was executed, he requested his ashes be scattered in the Cascade Mountains of Washington state, where he murdered at least 4 of his victims. Was Bundy the worst serial killer of all time? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more crime-thrilling content. Thank you.